Question of the Week from the Naked Scientists.
Hello and welcome to Question of the Week. I'm James Titko. Today's question comes in from...
This is Girts Prancis from Riga, Latvia. How similar do two organisms have to be to produce viable offspring? As far as I know, any female dog can mate with a male dog. But what about a dog and a fox, for example? Thank you.
Thanks, Geertz. A very interesting question. Domestic dogs, Canis lupus familiaris, may appear quite different from breed to breed, but are all in fact the same species. Provided they can, anatomically speaking, do the business, two dogs should be able to produce viable offspring. Foxes belong to the same taxonomic family as dogs, Canidae, but a different genus, Vulpes. As a general rule, animals who don't belong to the same species aren't compatible parents. But why is this? I've been speaking to Gary England, Professor of Comparative Veterinary Reproduction at the University of Nottingham.
So could there be a dog-fox hybrid? The significant factor in whether they could reproduce will be around their chromosome number. So the number of chromosomes must align well enough so that when the egg and the sperm come together, a viable embryo can form.
Chromosomes contain all of the genetic material, the DNA, that's required to code for the development, growth, function, and reproduction of an animal. They come in pairs. For dogs, that's 39, totaling 78 chromosomes.
If you think about the biology of fertilization, obviously we have to get some chromosomes from the female and some chromosomes from the male. So what has to happen is during the process of formation of the sperm and of the egg, the chromosome number has to halve. And that's a process called meiosis. And each of those offspring cells contains half of the number of chromosomes. So it contains one of the pairs of chromosomes. So when the egg and the sperm then join together, when fertilization occurs and the embryo forms, those chromosome pairs can come back together. And so we end up again with 39 pairs of chromosomes, or 78 chromosomes in total.
This is what leads to the development of a successful embryo between mating dogs. But what if we tried to bring a dog and a fox together?
If we assume that the question is about the red fox, the typical fox, that is in the different genus. It's in the genus Vulpes. The fox has only got 17 pairs of chromosomes. So the 17 pairs of chromosomes obviously doesn't match very well with the 39 pairs of chromosomes that we see in the domestic dog. So if we tried to have a dog red fox hybrid, we've got a big mismatch in the chromosome number. So it's very unlikely that the chromosomes will pair up and form a viable embryo.
Case closed? Well, not entirely. In 2021, an animal which looked and barked like a dog, but climbed bushes and refused dog food, and had some suspiciously pointy ears, was brought to an animal rehabilitation centre in southern Brazil after it was hit by a car.
So we talked about the red fox in particular. I said the red fox, that is from the Vulpes genus. The fox that you're talking about comes from the Lycalopex, so it's part of the American fox. And although these look very much like foxes, in fact, they're often described as not true foxes. They're probably more similar to wolves. There was a report of this female animal found that looked like a hybrid between a fox and a dog. And ultimately, they did some genetic studies on it, and they found that this female had 38 chromosome pairs, very similar to the 39 pairs of chromosomes that we just described in the dog. Now, it just so happens that if you look at the Pampas fox in Brazil, which is part of that Lycalopex genus, that fox has 37 pairs of chromosomes, so not the 17 pairs that we see in the red fox in Europe. So you can see how you could get a hybrid between the Pampas fox and the domestic dog, where you've not got exactly the same number of chromosomes, but you've got sufficient number of chromosomes that can align and ultimately form an embryo.
So, Gertz, for two animals to produce offspring, they need to have a compatible number of chromosomes so that they'll align during fertilization. Because chromosome numbers vary greatly between species, often even when they belong to the same family taxonomically speaking, as in the case of dogs and foxes, you won't get viable embryos in those cases of cross-species copulation. Thanks for sending that one in, and thanks to Gary England, Professor of Comparative Veterinary Reproduction at the University of Nottingham, for his help with the answer. Next time on Question of the Week.
Hello James and the other naked scientists. This is Ian Sharp of Newcastle upon Tyne, and I have a quantum question. Can you tell me please, do recent quantum experiments suggest that the Copenhagen, the multiverse, or another interpretation of quantum mechanics is correct? Thank you.
If you have any thoughts, why not join in on the forum discussion over on nakedscientists.com/forum. Be sure to drop us a line, of course. Also, if you have your own question, it's chris@thenakedscientists.com. chris@thenakedscientists.com. Until next time, though, from me, James Titko, thanks for listening and goodbye.
Question of the Week is part of the Naked Scientists podcast. Look us up online at nakedscientists.com.